Are you okay? Have you eaten today? No one had asked him that in 11 years, not since his mother died. Do-hyun, heir to Seoul's most feared crime family, sat in the gutter in rags, and for the first time in his adult life, felt something crack open in his chest that money had never touched. Hello guys, welcome to this lovely channel, and please don't forget to subscribe. The bowl beside him was empty, same as it had been for 3 hours. Do-hyun had chosen this corner deliberately. Foot traffic, good light, close enough to the cafe where his security chief pretended to read a newspaper. Everything about today was calculated except the itch under his collar and the ache in his knees from sitting on concrete. 2 weeks. That's what his grandmother had given him. Your grandfather left you everything, she'd said, sliding the document across the dinner table like a death sentence. I want grandchildren, not another excuse. Do-hyun had buried men who crossed his family. He had walked into rooms that went silent with fear. And yet nothing had rattled him quite like the calm, unblinking patience in his grandmother's eyes as she gave him 14 days to either fall in love or lose the empire his grandfather built. So here he was, filthy coat, matted hair, 3 days without a razor, testing a theory that money made people liars, and the only way to find a woman who'd love him, not the Kong name, not the penthouse, not the black cards, was to strip all of it away and see who stayed kind when there was nothing to gain. The first two who stopped were exactly what he expected. Look at him. The one in red laughed, hand flying to her mouth like she'd seen something scandalous rather than someone hungry. He looks like he fought a washing machine and lost, the one in yellow added, and they both dissolved in a laughter loud enough to turn heads down the block. Do-hyun lowered his eyes. Not from shame, old habit controlled the face, controlled the room, even from the ground. Somewhere behind that cafe window, his security chief was no doubt narrating this humiliation into a phone for his grandmother's amusement. Then a third voice, quieter, cut through. Guys, stop. He looked up. She wore green, dressed for whatever glittering thing the three of them had clearly been headed toward. And she was already crouching in front of him, ignoring the stone curb, ignoring her friend's stares, ignoring everything except him. Are you okay? Have you eaten today? The question landed somewhere Do-hyun didn't know was still open. He said nothing. He trained himself for silence in interrogation rooms far more hostile than this. But his throat had gone tight in a way that had nothing to do with performance. She didn't wait for an answer. She was already digging through her bag, pulling out a sandwich still wrapped in paper, pressing it into his hands like it was the easiest decision she'd made all day. You can have this. Peculiar, you're too soft, the one in red muttered, rolling her eyes. Being kind doesn't make me stupid, she said, not even turning around. Do-hyun almost smiled. Almost. 27 years old, and a stranger in a green dress had just out-negotiated every board member who'd ever sat across from him. She'd given something away and made it sound like strength. Then she noticed his hands. They were trembling, not from cold, but from 3 hours of sitting rigid, playing a role he'd never rehearsed enough. She misread it instantly, the way kind people always misread suffering as the thing they know how to fix. Wait here. She was gone before he could argue, and back minutes later with water, a second meal, and a blanket she draped over his shoulders like it cost her nothing to care this much. You don't have to do all this, he said, voice rougher than he intended. I know, she said. That's why it's called kindness. Something shifted in his chest, small but unmistakable, like a door he didn't know was locked finally giving way. He watched her walk off with her still laughing friends, green fabric catching the afternoon light, and for the first time in 11 years, Kong Do-hyun wasn't thinking about inheritance or timelines or the empire waiting to be lost. He was thinking about a sandwich and a stranger who hadn't asked his name before deciding he mattered. Behind the cafe window, his security chief lowered his phone, already typing a message his grandmother would read within the hour. She has no idea who she just fed. Where in the map are you watching from? Peculiar didn't think about the homeless man again until Thursday, when he showed up outside her coffee shop wearing an actual coat that fit and shoes that weren't held together by hope and duct tape. You, she said, nearly dropping the latte she was carrying to table 6. Me. Do-hyun agreed, looking entirely too pleased with himself for a man who, for days ago, had been sitting in a gutter. You clean up fast for someone who owns nothing. I have a very generous cousin. The lie came smooth as silk. He'd practiced it in the mirror that morning, which was, frankly, undignified for a man who once negotiated a weapons dispute without blinking. Peculiar narrowed her eyes. Something about him was different, the posture, mostly. Homeless men didn't usually stand like they were bracing to inherit a country. Well, cousin generosity, what do you want? Coffee. This is a coffee shop. Groundbreaking request. And your number? She laughed. A real one. Loud enough that Mina, wiping down the counter nearby, spun around like she'd heard a gunshot. Wait, is this the sandwich guy? Mina hissed, abandoning all pretense of working. The one who looked like he lost a fight with a washing machine? I believe I won that fight, actually, Do-hyun said. Second round. Decisively. Sora appeared from the back room holding a tray of pastries, took one look at him, and nearly dropped it. Okay, but why does homeless washing machine guy suddenly look like he stepped out of a skincare commercial? Soap, Do-hyun said solemnly. Revolutionary invention. You should try it. Mina snorted into her rag. Peculiar crossed her arms. Fighting a smile she refused to give him for free. You still haven't told me your name. Do-hyun. Just Do-hyun? No last name? Very mysterious. Very international man of no fixed address. I contain multitudes, he said, and she nearly choked trying not to laugh. Here's the thing about Peculiar Jackson. She'd spent 2 years in Seoul collecting stories nobody else bothered to ask for. The noodle vendor who used a box professionally. The grandmother who ran 3 blocks selling roasted chestnuts and could still outwalk Peculiar in heels. She liked people who surprised her. And this scruffy stranger, freshly soaped and suspiciously articulate, was doing exactly that. Fine, she said, sliding a napkin across the counter with her number scrawled on it before she could talk herself out of it. But if you ghost me, I'm reporting you to whichever generous cousin dressed you. I would never, Do-hyun said, tucking the napkin away like it was a state document. I take promises very seriously. It's practically a family business. Behind him, unnoticed, a black car idled at the curb, his grandmother's driver, sent to report back on whether the rumors were true. They were. Mina leaned towards Sora once he'd gone, whispering behind her hand. Did the homeless guy just get a girlfriend before either of us? I refuse to accept this timeline, Sora muttered. And Peculiar, humming to herself as she started the next latte, had absolutely no idea how right they both were to be worried. 3 dates in, Peculiar had developed a working theory. Do-hyun was either broke, a spy, or both. Exhibit A. He paid for their second date. A modest noodle shop, with a card so black it looked personally offended to be near a menu with prices under $20. Cousin again? She asked, watching the waiter's hand shake slightly as he processed it. Extremely generous family, Do-hyun said, not looking up from the menu. Exhibit B. 2 men in dark suits had coincidentally sat at the table behind them on 3 separate occasions, ordering nothing, drinking nothing, staring at absolutely nothing with the intensity of men guarding a nuclear codes. Are those your cousin's bodyguards, too? Peculiar asked, sipping her tea. They're security consultants, Do-hyun said. For the restaurant. Very thorough restaurant. Uh-huh. And do security consultants usually wear earpieces to guard dumplings? He opened his mouth, closed it. The dumplings here are exceptional. Peculiar snorted so hard she nearly inhaled her tea. Mina, of course, had opinions. Lots of them, delivered nightly via increasingly unhinged voice notes. He's obviously in witness protection, she declared over video call, holding a face mask sheet in place with one hand. That's the only explanation. Homeless 1 week, black card the next, bodyguards eating imaginary dumplings. Peculiar, the dating a fugitive. He's not a fugitive. Or, Sora chimed in from the background, hear me out, cult leader. He is not a cult leader, Sora. Cult leaders always have great skin, Sora said darkly. It's the first sign. Peculiar hung up laughing, but if she was honest, some small, curious part of her agreed something didn't add up. Do-hyun deflected every question about his family with the smoothness of a man who'd been media trained since birth. He knew the names of maitre d's he'd supposedly never met. Once, a stranger on the street had bowed to him so deeply it looked like a hinge malfunction, and Do-hyun had simply nodded like it was Tuesday. Popular guy, she'd said. Small town, he'd replied, in a city of 10 million people. Tonight, though, he seemed different, quieter, fidgeting with his water glass, glancing at his phone every few minutes like it might explode. You okay? She asked. My grandmother wants to meet you. Peculiar blinked. You're the cousin's mom? No, mine. He set the glass down carefully, like he was defusing something. This weekend. It's important to her. And to me. That's sweet, actually. Nervous meeting the family energy. I can work with that. There's something I should tell you first. About who my family actually. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and every trace of humor drained from his face in half a second flat. I have to go, he said, already standing, already pulling out that ridiculous black card to cover the bill before she could argue. Do-hyun, wait, what's wrong? He paused at the door, and for the first time since the sidewalk, she saw real fear in his eyes. Someone found out about you, he said, and they're not happy. Thrilled? Subscribe if you want part 2. Thank you for watching.